Again, we're going to talk about rhythmic phrasing and why it is the core of all guitar improvisation. And then comes the note choice. Then comes all the fun stuff like bends and trills and all that stuff. So I did a video before where I just put a random backing track on and played, just jumped right into it without hearing it. I'm going to do that now. The reason that I'm going to do that in a different genre is because with this rhythmic phrasing, I do a lot of stuff with 12-bar blues because that's very structured and easy to follow for people. But I want to show you that if you're learning that, maybe you're not into blues guitar, maybe that's not your style, you can take all of these concepts into other genres. So I typed Latin backing track into YouTube. All right, the first one that pops up is Latin groove backing track in A minor. So I know we're in A minor. I'm going to try to jump in right away. Just to see what happens here. So let's do it. All right, and I'm going to focus on my phrasing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go over, I might even just kind of talk in between while I'm playing, go over what I'm doing, my process is, and like why I'm making certain changes, things like that. So let's start. So I know I'm in A minor. So here we go. So that's my set. Nice and simple. And then I'll repeat that. And then change the fourth. Now I'm going to change it up a little bit. So I usually do. So that structure there is very, very common for me, especially if I want to kind of set the tone, where I'll do a phrase and then kind of a response to the phrase for the second one. Then I'll do the same one or as close as possible that I want to get to, and then vary it up on the fourth time. Some really great things to do though is if you take something very simple like I was doing, the second time, right, if you change that rhythm ever so slightly, okay, I'll show you that because I love this trick where the phrase still sits in there, it still kind of sits in the memory of the listener, right? You're delivering the phrase, but you're delivering it a little bit differently by delaying one of the notes or repeating one of the notes. That slightest change is going to help. So let me see where we are here. I'll do this. That's phrase number one. And then phrase number two. Now I'm going to change phrase one a little bit for three. And always kind of changing that four. So now even if I do something like this, can sound like I'm just drifting through the scale, but each one of those phrases is in there and constructed. They're just tied a little bit more together. This is why that rhythmic phrasing is so important, because even if I were to do, I'm just gonna pull this back to the beginning, even if I were to play in a sense of not sticking to these phrases as harshly, it's still phrase by phrase by phrase, right? Right? There are, if you guys listen to all those, if you were to really go back and kind of dissect that, there are motifs and phrases throughout that whole playing. And what's great is when you start developing this style is you can do the phrases where it has those nice pauses. You let that phrase sit, that very much phrase number one and phrase number two, and you let those breathe a little bit. And then when you go to kind of a little bit more of a fast-paced playing, it still has the same direction, you know? And the way that I think about it is, it has the same direction, the car's just going faster, you know? Because what we find the main problem is getting into this. If somebody really knows their scales and they're physically able to play, it's a lot of this stuff. So there's no direction there. So to get out of that, we're doing the small, simple phrases, musical phrases, and then when it comes time to noodle around, even though that's not really the case, you have such a foundation, you're able to speak faster. That's kind of the way that I describe it, you know? Now I switch it right here, maybe. Something just that simple, all right? So that is why I want you guys to really think about how you're playing and getting out of that. All right, because once you're stuck in there, the normal inclination is to start adding more notes or start adding more bends. If you're adding these bends and slides and trills and stuff like that to something that it doesn't already have a rhythmic core to it, it's going to do nothing. All right, so the way that it was described to me, you know, is kind of like, you know, you just have this lump of meat, you know, just lump of meat, and that's the core, right? That's the rhythmic phrasing. Then, you know, if you're making, like, the way the guy described it to me was like a hamburger. So you don't just like flunk the meat somewhere, you know what I mean? And like wait for it to cook. He's like, then you kind of like molding the meat a little bit and like getting it into a hamburger and making sure that it's like going to cook right. And then all of the other stuff is like all the seasoning, you know, whatever you want to put on the burger, but you got to make sure that's there. He said, otherwise you're just going to get a plate that's going to have like salt, pepper, and like hot pepper on it, and there's going to be nothing there, and there's nothing that you can do to save it. You know what I mean? So that's why this is so important. I hope you guys do like this video. If you need help coming up with these sort of repetitions, let me know. It's all right if this is difficult at first. I have had students before, really great. Two guys I'm thinking in particular. They were like really awesome shredders, and they were in a few metal bands, and they wanted to get off of that genre, but for maybe like 11 years that was kind of like all they were playing. These guys were good, you know, and they were having a tough time, even if something like this, just playing twice, right? The way that they played wasn't to repeat rhythmic phrases. They were just kind of like shredding up and down. So it's totally understandable why sometimes people have a little bit of difficulty, and some of you guys are going to watch this lesson and you're going to blow by it, and you're going to have already done this like a million times before. So I hope you guys like it. That is my Tuesday morning lesson. So awesome. Thanks, guys.